Hello guys, welcome back to the Sportsman Untitled Extra. I'm joined by Gab Sutton and Johnny from Boro Breakdown. And Johnny, you're taking the spotlight today because we're going to do a quick discussion on what's gone on at Middlesbrough in recent years and how they got to where they are today and potentially on the brink of the Premier League. Should we maybe start with Garry Monk's appointment and go back to 17-18? A weird place to start, but why is it so important?
It is a very weird place to start, but I think Garry Monk is the butterfly effect that Middlesbrough needed to go on this journey that they're on now. You know, I'll take you back to the scene. Middlesbrough have just been relegated from the Premier League after a disastrous stint. And Steve Gibson has said, we're going to smash the league. And by smash the league, you know, we're going to spend £50 million. We did recuperate all of that and only spent £1 million in the end. And Garry Monk was appointed as Middlesbrough boss. Now, Garry Monk was a bit of a naughty boy. During his time at Middlesbrough, he had some transfer dealings with a certain agent.
James Featherstone,
yeah. And we overpaid significantly for Ashley Fletcher, where we paid double the amount of what we were actually asking for, as just one example of it. And also additionally, when he was Middlesbrough boss, he told Steve Gibson that he wanted to go on leave for a day and actually went for an interview at Swansea. So this led to Steve Gibson being in a position where he was like, right, well, I need to go for it this season. So he appointed Tony Pulis. Tony Pulis came in, give the ball to Adama, and we got into the playoffs. And then after that season, Middlesbrough were in a bit of a predicament because the money's starting to run out. Tony Pulis wipes the decks. We still bring in Aidan Flint for £7 million. I don't know why, but we got about £20 million back in transfer fees.
When was Assombalonga?
Assombalonga was the year before we down. So that under Garry Monk, it was Britt Assombalonga, Martin Braithwaite, Johnny Howson, Cyrus Christie, Marvin Johnson was another one we overpaid for as well. So imagine spending $50 million just getting that. It's a bit wild, isn't it? But yeah, so Middlesbrough went on a journey. And Tony Pulis was manager. We started to wipe the decks and get a lot of people off the books. And then after 7 games of not scoring a goal and falling out the playoffs, someone brought in an inflatable dinosaur and said goodbye, Tony Pulis, which he was then sacked. So then Middlesbrough started to run out of money from there. And Jonathan Woodgate was appointed. And then Middlesbrough started to go on this journey with Adrian Bevington, where they did a full club audit. And then they started to change their way in terms of transfer dealings.
And then you appoint Neil Warnock.
And appoint Neil Warnock, yeah, because Middlesbrough are at a point where they don't have the players anymore. They don't have the quality, or the players that they do have there aren't really a good fit. Jonathan Woodgate's first job in management with no experience around him. Robbie Keane was his assistant, and Leo Percevic. And Neil Warnock is very much a firefighter at this point. But during that time, Middlesbrough are on this journey where we need to identify someone different to come to the club. And I heard that Middlesbrough new head of football, Kieran Scott, was touted for 12 months prior to Neil Warnock coming in. So it was like, it's been a long journey to bring Kieran Scott into the football club. And then when Kieran came in, he got rid of Neil Warnock, hired Chris Wilder, and Middlesbrough went on a journey of let's bring in some younger players with a higher market value, along with a new head of football and Chris Jones. And Middlesbrough went on a journey from developing players from there.
How important is Scott and Chris Jones then in terms of behind the scenes and head of recruitment and running the club?
Massive. So the butterfly effect of Garry Monk coming in, where Steve Gibson goes, right, I'm spending so much money and I'm not getting a return. And this dates back a number of years, even prior to Garry Monk. And Steve has just said, like, look, I need to become more sustainable. I need to see the fruits of what I've been paying for the last 30 years. And bringing in a head of football takes all the football decisions away from Steve and gives it to Kieran Scott. Now, there's a lot of pressure on Scott at this point because Boro have never had one before.
He's a young lad as well.
And also, you've just got rid of a long-term head of recruitment in Gary Gill as well. So, new data-driven model, new direct head of football, a new way of playing. This can take 3 to 5 years to really come good. So the 5 years now leads to pretty much today, where now we've run in a position of developing a lot of academy players, bringing players in and selling them for profit. Chuba Akpom, Morgan Rogers, academy players of Jed Spence, Marcus Tavernier. A lot of transfer dealings have fallen in our favour. So in terms of the impact, bringing players in and selling on has been different.
I think if you hadn't appointed Kieran Scott, I think Middlesbrough could possibly be now either bottom end of the Championship or League One, because I don't think Steve Gibson, I think he's been a phenomenal person for Middlesbrough Football Club over the last 30 years, but maybe he's not able to fund the club in the way that he has done previously with the financial climate of English football right now. So he needs someone who can oversee the whole club and think of the long-term picture, because I think managers often think in very short windows of time and they do what's best for themselves. That's just a very natural thing, whereas Kieran Scott oversees the whole operation, it seems.
Absolutely. He's given Middlesbrough a vision to go towards and to be a top 23 club. Previously, it was very much, let's just throw everything at it at different managers. They always get time. But what was happening is Middlesbrough's turnover in players was just becoming a bit too much for us to handle, really, and to say in teams. I think Stoke are probably a good example of where Boro could have probably ended up if they didn't bring in a Kieran Scott to turn things around. And when Kieran did come in, we brought in some really good players for that playoff season. You know, we've brought in Aaron Ramsey on loan, Zach Steffen, Cameron Archer, Alex Mowat, some like people who for now and for a little bit later as well, as long as Ryan Giles on loan too. And we've started to build this team over a longer period of time. Yes, there has been turnovers, players that have came and gone, like Emmanuel Latelath, who we'd have loved for a little bit longer. But now Middlesbrough in a position where they've got a really nice blend of players who they can sell on for really good value and a good blend of experience.
The Michael Carrick era, we can run through it very quickly if you want, but it feels like the way you're talking there, it's less about the head coach or who's in charge on the pitch, and the actual running of the club is far more sustainable in terms of season to season. So even if you don't got it this season, you'll still be in quite a good place to build. Is that how you feel?
That's exactly it. You just keep building and building and building and building and building. You know, if your ambition is to be a top 23, that means you can still stay in the Championship. But Middlesbrough's ambition is to get to the Premier League, and what a season this is to do. This is a big moment for us. You know, it does feel like if we can't do it now, then when are we going to do it? We still have some really good players, but I just want to touch on Carrick for a moment. He's done so much in terms of coaching players and developing them so they can go on for big fees. Like Morgan Rogers, we brought him in for £1 million, sold him for 16 in the January, and have a 20% sell-on clause on top of that.
Oh, you'll get late.
So we could be sitting in like another £20 million from it, you know? So having someone who can really structure deals that benefits the club has made a massive difference for us. But yeah, it's not just about the coach, it's about the identity, it's the way of playing, it's connecting with the club. And we have went, and just to go on just on a management tangent, Carrick to Edwards is so different. And I think Middlesbrough are going to struggle this year with that. But we were a transition club. We were like, in terms of like how we play. So I could understand why we would bring in Edwards, but Kim Hellberg coming in now, it make everything starting to piece together. Players looking good, but it's all very system oriented. You've took a top 10 Championship club to a promotion candidate just from one manager now, and sustainability over a prolonged period.
And who makes the decision ultimately with the managerial appointment? Who appointed Hellberg, and why is it so good?
Kieran Scott does. So I was very fortunate to speak to Kieran last year around how he identifies managers. So every time he hires a manager, he has another 3 or 4 in the back pocket to ever, in the worst case scenario, your manager goes to Wolves for £3 million. Actually, I'm not bitter at all. I'm glad that he went. But yeah, he was able to identify Kim. He got interviewed in the summer. So it was a case of, well, we were already, identified him as a potential candidate. But to go for our second foreign manager speaks volumes, because it was only Aitor Karanka that was our first foreign manager, and for us to go back into the foreign market, it speaks a lot, because Steve has been renowned to just stick with British coaches. It's who he knows, and he knows the industry, and he has a lot of people on the phone, so he can go, what do you think about him, and what do you think about him?
Well, you can't do that with foreign managers.
Can't do that with Kim, no. So, but honestly, I think Kim is just a phenomenal head coach, and I think we're so lucky to have him.
If we're looking forward a little bit, Gab, where do you see Middlesbrough over the next couple of years? They feel like now, as Johnny's just explained to us, one of the best run clubs in the Championship. Can they become a bit more of an established Premier League club, maybe, if we're talking this time next year?
I think established more of a Premier League club is more of a medium-term milestone, I would predict. I would say Middlesbrough might be able to get promoted this season. I don't, whether they'd stay up and do a Sunderland or whether they'd go back down, I don't know. But I think that they would be a club under Kieran Scott who's so sensible with the way he invests in talented young players, talented coaches, and then reinvests that money well. And that model of financial sustainability, I think, is so impressive in the current climate. So I think Middlesbrough are on the right track, and that's my politician's answer.
We just do not have the money to compete in the Premier League.
Yeah.
As much as Steve invests every single season, we cannot spend hundreds of millions of pounds even if we do go up.
Yeah. But it does feel like, as from a Coventry perspective, the door's wide open for a club like Middlesbrough, a club like Coventry to go up this season without those parachute payment teams locking out the top two.
This is it. This has to be the season for the pair of us. If not when, if we can't do it now, then God help us. Because next year you're seeing the teams that come down. Tottenham as well. Imagine playing Tottenham in the Championship.
Thank you, Gab. Thank you, Johnny. If you want to hear more of Johnny's thoughts on Boro, check out Boro Breakdown Podcast, by the way. Check out Gab's EFL debate. I'm also on YouTube if you want to watch us anywhere else. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll be back with Callum Fowler on Monday. So stay tuned for the Sportsman Untitled full show, and we'll see you then.